David's on here.
He is?
I see him on here. Isn't he the Lancer?
No, that's Shireen doing the
Shireen?
recording.
Oh, okay.
I believe he said he could be here. That's the meeting was built around his schedule, so I assume
Yes.
he's here anytime.
Do you want to text him? Just let him know.
I mean, do it around him.
Crystal, I have a question. Since everybody has their Armenian Heritage Month background up, how many Armenian students do we have at PCC?
Well, that's a very good question because we really don't know. Yes.
Okay.
Because it isn't a choice. It is a choice for them now, but it has not been a choice for them previously. They would have chosen white.
I see.
Which
Okay.
is why when you look at like Glendale's community college's population, they look really, really white, but they're not. They're very Armenian.
I see. So
But
we will
that-
know.
Yeah, with the ancestry
Okay.
dashboard, we're beginning to be able to pull that out.
That's great.
So I texted him and said, meeting just started and are you coming? And I'll let
Yeah.
you know, but
He just texted me.
oh, he
so-
did? Okay, I'll be on in a minute. Okay,
Mhm.
great. All right.
Maybe we can just send him the link so it makes it easy for him if that's possible.
Sure.
That's probably him. Oh, yep, there he is.
Oh, yeah, I just sent him. He's fast.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, David. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Is there any public comment on non-agenda items?
No, there's no public comment.
Okay, and then we have the minutes of February 10th. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of February 10th?
I second.
Okay. Any opposed, since there's only 3 of us? Okay, not hearing anyone in opposition, the minutes pass. Okay, let's go on to the first board bylaw policy. So 3820, you want to bring that up, Crystal?
Yep, I do. I shall bring that up. So this is one that is long overdue. As you can see, the last time we worked on this was in 1994. Oops. So it was actually Bobby over in the foundation who took this one on, and also the tendering of the artwork one, which is the next one to look at. And she did the rewrites on this. And for these 2 board policies, those you'll notice in the packet, I also provided you with the new administrative procedures as well, just so you could see how we were going to do this. I'm assuming you can all see my screen.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, and so particularly Bobby added in this language you see in the bold here, especially the language about not accepting a donation from any donor who engages in practices or policies which discriminate against any person on the basis of nationality, religion, age, gender, gender identity, gender expression, race or ethnicity. And the whole list, this has to do with some of the issues that we have had with people questioning who we were accepting money from. And so we wanted to be very clear about, as an institution that is focused on equity and social justice, who we would accept money from.
Okay,
Okay.
But this one is particularly about art, right? Public
No.
art.
no, it's about
I
all
think-
this.
Yeah, I think, yeah, and I think the next one is particularly about public arts.
Okay.
That's the next one we're gonna look at. This one has to do with a lot of things. This could be money. This could be property. I mean, it could be like chairs or, I
Mhm.
don't know. I don't accept a lot of gifts, so I don't really know, but Bobby seems to understand.
Okay. All right. So are there any questions on this?
I think David has his hand up.
Okay.
Yeah,
David,
I
go
just
ahead.
I just had a question as to where would we be able to find, I guess, public records of donations that are made to the district for transparency purposes?
Got me. I have no idea. I think most of these happen through the foundation, so
Yeah.
I'm assuming that they keep records on it, but
They do, yeah. That's where you would get the records, is through the foundation. If you had a question, you could ask them, but that's a foundation function. It's not a college function.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
I want to just comment to David's comment. So David, you can also find the 990, which would say who the donors are if it's above a certain level. So all nonprofits, 501c3s, which the foundation operates under, will have to file a 990 with the IRS. And the 990 is usually posted by Charity Navigator or by ProPublica. So you could see the revenue, expenses, and also donations.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Is there a motion to accept this? I move to accept it. Is there a second?
Second,
Okay. Does anyone dissent on this? Okay, hearing no dissent, we'll go ahead and pass this policy to present to the board. Okay, next.
believe next we're going to look at 3821, which is the acquisition of art. And it's a little harder to read because of all the strikeouts, but basically it's the district can accept works of art for display on the various campuses of the Pasadena City College. One of the reasons we needed to change this one is because it used to be just one area of the college and we wanted to expand it out to the entire college.
Mhm.
So as you can see in the strikeout part, we were just talking about the sculpture garden. Bobby wanted us to be able to accept artwork at different areas of the campus, so she expanded it out. So all art accepted and placed on the campus will take into account respect for the diverse beliefs and values of the public.
Okay,
But that's
Yeah.
basically the change is going from we can only accept art for the sculpture garden to accept art for different areas of the campus.
okay, that makes
And
sense.
And I believe we also provided you with the administrative procedure to see on this one too.
Right, I saw that. Okay, are there any questions on this?
yes, I do. I have a
Okay.
question as to who decides what art can be accepted.
I think that was laid out in the administrative procedure. And if
Mhm.
you'd like, I think I can pop that up for you. Would you like
That
to
would be
see
helpful. Thank you.
Sure, of course. Just give me a second here and I can find that.
With
Okay,
the Campus Art Advisory Committee.
there you go.
Okay.
So there's actually two. It's the Art Advisory Committee and then the Operations Committee. That's so that we make sure that the art that we get can be maintained and all the other things that have to be happening with art.
So this would be different than a donation of artwork because this is public art that can be donated or loaned to PCC, correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
It could be either.
yeah.
Okay.
The other thing is like at Valley College, one of the focus points of their Measure J bond in 2010 was about public art on campuses. And so Valley College had the Freeway Lady mural reconstituted by the artist on the campus. And so that went through the whole approval process. And so it was a bond and it was public art. So it went through that versus the donation.
Okay. All right, any other questions on this? Trustee Ramirez, you're okay?
Okay,
So I move.
I second. I think you muted Trustee Wah.
Oh, well, no wonder you guys aren't responding. Okay, if no dissent, all right, we'll go ahead and pass this and move it to the full board. All right, next.
I believe we're going to look at 5900, which is study load limitations. This is one of the policies and procedures that we put through a subcommittee in order to make it more student accessible and readable. So this is where we had a student come in and work through this. So as you can see, we kind of just changed out some of the language that the students said probably wasn't understandable and just put in more understandable language. Not much has really changed. It's just the language within the board policy.
Okay. So why are there load limitations? I mean, why isn't it up to the student to just develop, to have their own, just to
David, do you want
determine-
to address that, or?
I mean, I would assume that, I mean, I guess in my own experience, I have taken on more courses than I thought I could handle. So, I guess just here is just
Yeah.
making sure that we're making, reasonable choices.
And that's the thing is we understand that students might take on too much. And part of our job is to help students figure out if they've taken on too much. And the guise under which we do it has to do with like not wanting to waste financial aid, because we don't want students to use their financial aid eligibility up, or the amount of money they get taking too many units. And the other issue is we have a responsibility to make sure that when students register for classes or programs, they have what's known as the ability to benefit. But if you have a student who routinely, let's say, registers for 24 units and only completes 12, that's not an ability to benefit, and it's not good for the student. So it's good to have a mechanism in place. Now, there are some students who have a reason that they need to go above that level, and there's a process in place for them to petition to do that.
How often do we have a student who does that?
Oh, I would say on average, sometimes when I'm looking at it, there might be maybe 20 students who are taking like 24 units,
Yeah,
something like that, which is, way above. And there's a petition process for them
Yeah.
to do that if they choose to. But I think the other caveat in this is we really want to support student success. But we also have to remember that if they take a seat in a class and then they drop it, they've taken a seat that could have been available to another student who needed it. So it's
and they
kind of
only
like
get 3 enrollments in each class.
that
It's not the former where you could basically take the same class 7 times. It's now limited to 3. So we want to make sure that every time they register for a class, they have the greatest opportunity to be successful.
Okay, any questions on this?
My question is, how many units, what's the limit right now?
I don't have that in front of me.
Oh,
I think it's like 20, is it 21, Crystal?
yeah, it's pretty high, but I'm gonna
It's
look
pretty
at it.
high.
It's pretty
Yeah.
high. Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, okay.
It's not like there's a ton
So-
of petitions, because there aren't a ton of students who go over a pretty high limit to begin with.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So right now, the way it reads is, it's a maximum of 20 units for a fall or spring.
Right.
And 12 in a summer or a winter intersection. I mean, that's what we would maximum allow them to enroll in, but they could always petition to take more.
Mhm.
And you didn't want to put like the number of units in this policy because you want some flexibility in deciding what the limit.
Well,
Oh.
yes,
Yeah.
and the specificity would be more appropriate to be in the AP
Okay,
versus in the
Should be in the
BP,
AP.
because APs are much easier it's much easier to edit them, especially as things change.
okay, got it.
How often do we have a student though who does not meet that petitions then and then fails to complete at the higher level. Does this
I-
happen often?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Dr. I would say that our counselors do a really good job walking students through the pros and cons, you
Mhm.
know, of taking more than the 20 units. And students are they get it, 20 units is a heavy load.
Yeah, 20 is still a heavy load. Okay. Any
Um,
questions, Trustee Ramirez?
I just had a follow-up question because that gave me a question to think. How many students, if you know this, how many students are rejected from petitioning to get over?
That's something I'm just making a note. I don't have that number. It'd be interesting to know if I had to guess, then that number probably correlates to students who either are on academic probation or who have been recently on academic warning of some sort. But we can find out who keeps those statistics.
It isn't me, just if you were wondering.
Yeah,
all
no,
about
it's definitely, I
that.
think it's in
in counseling.
counseling. Mhm.
Mm. Yeah, be good to have that information when we bring this to the board. Okay, any other questions? All right, is there a motion to pass this?
I motion.
Okay,
Second.
second, okay. If no objections, we'll go ahead and move this to the full board. Okay, next.
6100,
Mhm.
which is basically a rewrite of Delegation of Authority. This is one, actually, I'm embarrassed to say this, that Mike Bush gave me and rewrote for me before he left. And asked me to follow the league language, which is what we did, is we basically took the league. He rewrote it and used the league language for me. So the bottom is everything that was before, and he just gave me the shortened.
Okay, any questions? I can't see if anyone's raised their hand. So if there's no questions. Okay, so is there a motion to pass this? I move to pass it. Is there someone who wants a second?
Second.
All right, if there's no objections, any objections to this? Okay, well, motion passes and we will move this to the board. All right, next.
All right, purchasing and inventory, and I'm going to scroll down to the bottom because I believe this one is a 1994 one. But I
Mhm.
haven't had anybody who was willing to work on it until Darlene
That came.
Yeah, and she said, Crystal, we need to rewrite this. And I said, it's all yours. So So Darlene took it on, rearranged all the language. She did the AP for me as well. Some of this was just language updates because we don't really have a director of purchasing anymore. And other of it was some of this language in here that she worked on for employees or consultants. Ratification by the governing board shall not be required with respect to transactions entered into pursuant to this section, which is those things that are up to $250. Again, it's, she just updated the language for me. Who
Okay.
knew it was gonna be this easy to do, but
All right, are there any questions on this?
I just have a comment on the $250.
Mhm.
Is that, would you like a higher amount or is
I think that's Ed code.
oh,
Yeah,
that's
it's ed code.
Okay.
Yeah,
But thank you, but I believe it's
Yeah.
Ed code.
yeah. There are certain things we do not have we don't have a choice about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Trustee Ramirez? Okay. I will entertain a motion to accept this policy.
So moved.
Okay, second.
Second.
Okay, any objections? Okay, so hearing no objections, this policy will be moved to the full board. Okay, next.
6,400. Again, this is one that Mike Bush did for me before he left. Basically updating the language to the current CCLC language and the bottom part of this. He did want to add the language about using certified public accountants licensed by the California Board of Accountancy, which I believe is required in Ed code.
Mhm. Yep.
So it is understood then that all the associate student accounts, bookstore, KPCC would be under this policy, right? That the
Mhm.
audits will be under, okay.
Yeah,
So it doesn't need to be spelled out the way that it was.
no, because it applies to everybody.
Okay,
Yeah,
And we don't do the bookstore anymore because they're their own entity now. so.
yeah, that's
Okay.
an auxiliary that we contract out. So we don't audit them.
And we don't, and I think the same goes with, well, like, I mean, wording like cafeteria, because now we would now call it dining services and I don't, do we even do the audit for the foundation?
The audit for the foundation does get submitted to you. You accept the audit. But you don't do the audit. The foundation has to do the audit, have the audit done, and then they report it to you as a board.
so does the foundation have to have an audit completed by, the certified public accountants licensed by
Yes.
the California Board of Accountancy? So this would apply
Yeah.
to the foundation as well.
It applies to the foundation because it applies to, because their 503C status. I don't know that it's specific about California. I think it's specific here about California because it's the district. I'd have to look and see whether or not it specifies that for the foundation. I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
So whereas the previous policy spells out that the board will select a CPA, now this just is silent on that or just implies that it's.
No, you still do, but it's based on the recommendation. So the superintendent president shall recommend a certified public accountant board of trustees. So
Right,
Okay.
so what
we'll
it
still
does is
bring
just
it to
say,
you.
I'm gonna do that on your behalf because it's my responsibility, because you've delegated responsibility and authority to me to do that, that's all. Because otherwise it looks like you all are gonna get together and say, hey, who should we hire
Mhm.
as our auditor? And that's misleading.
Okay, any other questions on this? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to accept this. I will move. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. I think seconded by trustee Ramirez first. Okay, so hearing no objections, are there any objections? Hearing no objections, we will move this to the full board. Okay, last.
Okay,
So the last one is board bylaws to be considered for administrative procedures. And this is my list of the ones that I think you might want to consider having administrative procedures for.
Vacancies on the board, okay. All right, so what's special reservers? There are no APs on there now?
No, none of these have APs
No.
on them. In some cases, we would be moving some of the bylaw language into an AP because you're a little too specific in the bylaw with
Mhm.
regarding administrative procedures. Some of them, we just want to clarify, we would put it in an administrative procedure, how these things would come to you at a board meeting. For
Mhm.
example, what we would do before we brought you the initial collective bargaining proposals. So what happens on the administrative side before they get to you? And then participation in local decision-making would really help us just define out the different roles of the various constituency groups on the campus.
So for example, I thought there was, we did have a process for vacancies on the board, but you're saying that it's spelled out in the board bylaw as opposed to an AP.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
And it's really the administration that does a lot of that for you.
Mhm.
So it really
Right.
should be an administrative procedure with the final result going to the board as what they do.
and my understanding from comments that John Martin made was that in the past, the perception had been, oh, well, why would there be an administrative procedure tied to a board bylaw? Because, it kind of didn't make any sense, but this way we clean up the board bylaw because the board bylaw should be as spare or as succinct as a board policy. And it's really in the AP where things
Sure.
get spelled out.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so what's the next step on this?
Well, if you agree to this list, I will start the development process because in this particular case, I would want the board to review the administrative procedure that you are comfortable with what we're doing to implement the bylaw.
Okay,
But I wanted to bring them to you first to get some direction on where you wanted me to go.
Right, because normally administrative procedures do not come to the board. They are administrative procedures. And so, but this is different because it pertains specifically to you.
yeah, if these are bylaws, then
Yeah.
those do come to us.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I don't like stuff that's all where the bylaws is spells out everything. It should be under the AP.
Yeah.
So, okay, is there a motion to accept this list of bylaws to be considered for administrative procedures? I move. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, is there any dissent on this? Okay, hearing no dissent, this list will then be moved for further action to develop the APs. Okay, and then is this just presented as a list then at the regular board meeting?
That's really up to you. I don't think we need to present it to them. You've agreed to it. I'll start working on the administrative procedures. I think the next thing to do would be I would bring you the revised bylaw and the administrative procedure to go with it, and then you would decide what we move to the full board.
Okay,
Are you good with that? I mean, it's your call, but that would be my recommendation.
sure. I think it's fine. I don't think it's a problem though to give the list to the rest of the board and let them know that we're going to be working on an AP. That way they're aware of it.
Sure.
Okay. All
So
right.
Crystal, do you want to add that to the information for
Sure.
the agenda for next week?
Sure, I can do
Okay,
that.
great, thank you.
Mhm.
All right. So we are finished with B. Accreditation update.
None.
None?
Your lucky day.
Yeah.
Everything's going smooth.
6 more years.
Okay, then meeting schedule, nothing on that.
Well, I think we're going to be doing a follow-up schedule so that
Mhm.
we can take up some of Trustee Ramirez's items related
Okay.
to the student trustee board bylaw.
Right.
So we'll get that organized.
Okay.
And I will,
great.
so I will also have to bring the board member compensation bylaw at the same time.
Right.
Okay, and then let's see, so we have that as proposed future agenda item, and then any other agenda items
Yes.
on that?
This may not be for this committee, so please let me know whether it should be in this committee or another committee. You know, there was a recent article in the LA Times about forgiving student debt, especially at community colleges.
Mhm.
I believe Compton College is doing that, and some other colleges, and the LACCD is looking at it. The average debt is $41. You know, would that be something that PCC would consider, or?
We're actually doing that. I believe we did some of that with HERF dollars. Now the HERF requirements, if I'm not mistaken, you can't go before the pandemic and use HERF dollars to do that. So I believe we did pay off. And one of the things we did was lift holds, because, you know, we'd have students who had a hold because they hadn't paid a health fee or they hadn't paid. We lifted holds, and Crystal, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we did pay for some of the debt as long as it was since the beginning of the pandemic. We did not pay for international student debt because that's problematic. But so we're already doing that.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of debt forgiveness.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
And
I don't see
and
that as
think-
being brought as a policy, though.
No.
It's more of a practice, because the policy, because in normal times, you really can't do it. And the reason you can't is because Title V is very clear that you have to collect fees unless a student has a Board of Governors waiver. You know, you have to collect fees. And so colleges can't just waive fees. They have to figure out how they're going to pay for it. So what we did this last year, for example, is in the fall, and I believe we did it in the spring too, we covered the student health fee. And we covered materials fees. And so we used HERF dollars for that, which we can, because it was related to students being enrolled and all of that. But if somebody hadn't paid for their fees, like if it were 2016 and somebody didn't pay for their fees, we had no choice but to go through this COTOP program to get the fees back. A lot of times we didn't, but the COTOP intercepts tax checks, things like that. Now the Chancellor's office has asked us not to do that, and because of the pandemic, and most of us were already using HERF dollars anyway to try to encourage folks to come back again if they had amassed fees or tuition or whatever during the pandemic.
Okay.
Now,
All right.
David has his hand up.
Yeah, David, go
I
ahead.
just want to comment quickly on that. I know that the college gave out Visa gift cards to students. I think that might work both ways with paying off any outstanding debts to the college, but also just helping them with the cost of attendance, because I know that helped me a lot.
Yeah, we used HERF dollars for that. So Visa gift cards. So we did the bookstore voucher for $150, and then the Visa gift cards were for proof of vaccination.
Okay. So on any other questions on future agenda items? I know that we're looking at policies where we are closing the equity gap that may affect our DEI, or that may be rewritten to reflect a DEI lens. Where are we on that?
We actually, as I mentioned earlier, I'm working with this subgroup, and that's exactly what we're doing, is working on them, and we have them coming through now. The study load limitation was one, the one that we have that's coming through on academic standing. That's what we did in order to break down some of those barriers for students. So you'll be seeing those coming through. You know, it's a very slow process here, Trustee Watt, to move things through. So,
And Crystal, remind me, we are changing the language of academic probation to be what?
academic warning.
Academic warning. So what we're trying to do is use language that is not off-putting, that's not, punitive in nature. So those kinds of things, and CCLC. Now, did you go to this CCLC policy training, or is that coming up?
It's coming up.
Okay, because I know CCLC is updating their model policies with this in mind. Jane Wright is doing this work, and Crystal signed up to get a whole bunch of policy feedback, or updates on that too.
Good. Yeah, I did hear Jane was doing a
Mm-hmm.
workshop. So I think that where we have policies that are changing and reflecting that we are moving, we're looking at this with the DEI lens and what that language means, it would be good for us to call it out and then kind of keep track, because I think other districts will also be interested. Okay.
Yeah.
One other thing I just wanted to mention, if you're interested in how we spent the HERF dollars, we actually have a data dashboard available on the website. I'm gonna pop it up. So you
Can you send us a link?
Oh, I
She's going to show it to you too.
Okay,
I'm
great.
gonna show
Thank
it to
you.
But this is what it looks like. So it tells you how we spent the money. It's kind of pretty.
It is. It's
We
very
like-
colorful.
Isn't it? We like pretty.
Yes,
So I will,
it's those are happy colors.
yeah.
Yes.
So I will send this link off to you so you can take a look at it.
Okay. Sounds good.
Sure.
All right. Well, if no other items.
No.
All right. Well, this
All right.
meeting
So
is
be on the
adjourned.
lookout for a doodle poll on another meeting.
Okay,
I
great.
can I have a question that I can ask offline with Erica. I'll give you a
Okay.
call.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.